What is up, people? Van from the Vaniverse Gaming Channel here, bringing you another Should I Buy video for 2020. And in today's video, we're going to cover a game called Outward. Now, Outward came out about a year ago. It's been on sale a lot lately, so a buddy of mine picked it up and played through it. And I wanted to give you my opinion of the game and if it's something you should buy in 2020 as well. Now, I will tell you that they are planning a DLC for spring of 2020, and I'm sure with the COVID-19 that it got pushed back, but if you were to purchase the game, now's a good time. It's usually on sale, and then you can play through the main content and get ready for the DLC when it releases. So now let's get into the game and talk about what the game is, and then at the end I'll kind of give you my opinions of the game after playing through it. So first, let's talk about the actual game itself. It is a survival RPG game where it's an RPG in that your character can get skills and build out your character that way. But there's really nothing other than that. Most of the game is based on what gear you're wearing and how your attributes are. You basically have health, you have stamina, and you have mana, and that's on the left-hand side at the bottom, the red, yellow, and blue circles. So from an RPG standpoint, you're not going to be leveling up, you're not going to be gaining new attributes or anything like that. It's solely how you customize your skills and then use those skills to, along with your equipment, in order to build a character. Now, you will also notice that there are only 8 skill slots that you can have on your bar at one time, and without those 8, you would have to go into your bag to activate those skills. Now, what makes this game a survival game is you are being constantly affected by a lot of different things. So planning before you leave to go out of a town is very important in this game. You have to contend with weather, cold, and heat. So depending on what gear you have on and what consumables or food you are have eaten or have on you, you will start to get cold or you will start to overheat. If you get cold, you actually can gain a disease, and there are diseases in this game. So having consumables that you make in order to get rid of those diseases is also very important. So not only do you have to contend with the weather, there is, like I said, a lot of debuffs that can be put on you, including diseases. But monsters in general can also debuff you with making you more easily knocked down or poisoning you or causing bleed and all of those things. So you need to have items like hex cleaners and all that type of stuff to clean off diseases and bleeds. So you really have to be prepared. Now, on the flip side, there are a lot of buffs in the game that you can give yourself that will help you increase your impact damage or your damage, or even add different elements to your weapons. The elements in this game are very common to other games where you have elements like cold and fire and poison, and each one of those elements does something different. And so you can add those elements to your weapons, and creatures in this game are more susceptible or take less damage and more resistant to different elements. So there is a lot going on when it comes to preparing yourself to go out into the world. And in addition to buffs, debuffs, diseases, and weather, you also have to make sure that you're fully rested, you are fed and not hungry, and you are not thirsty and you have drink. And they all affect you in negative ways. If you're thirsty or you're hungry, you can start taking damage, or you lose your stamina and you lose your health. And if you're getting tired, the more you get tired in this game, or the more often you die in this game, your maximum health and stamina and mana start to go down. So you'll notice that if you just run around and sprint in this game for 24/7 and you just never take off your sprint button, you will actually burn your max stamina, so that when you are full stamina, you are not where you were previously, and eventually, if you die or you don't rest, you might have had a stamina of, say, 100 max, and now, since you've been going and going and going and not resting, now your max stamina is only 50. So there are a lot of things like that in the game that make the game a survival type game. Now, with that aside, let's talk about the gameplay itself and the combat. So when you first get in the game, there are very few skills to choose from when you first start this game. In the first starting town, you are given a skill when you leave the door, and it depends on which weapon you have in your hand, because the skills a lot of the skills are weapon dependent. You can only use them if you have a specific weapon equipped in your hand. So you get that skill, and then there's also a trainer that will train you some other skills. Now, there are active skills and passive skills in this game, but a lot of these skills have to be found by exploring the map and going to different trainers. So when you first start playing this game, it will be repetitive because you're not going to have a lot of skills to choose from, and a lot of your combat is going to be basically just swinging your melee weapon over and over and over again. Now, the combat is pretty simple without skills. You have your left click on a PC is your basic attack, your right click is your block, and then you also have a power attack that you can do that does more damage. And the power attack will also affect their impact more, which may also cause them to be knocked down. So that is basically how the combat works. It's really just blocking when they do their attacks and then also using your attacks on them. Now, I will tell you in this game that there are animation locks. So if you are in the middle of a swing with, say, a big weapon and they're in the middle of a swing, you are both going to hit each other. You cannot cancel out of that animation. Once you start the attack, if they're attacking you as well, you're both going to hit each other. So a lot of this game is understanding the mechanics of each of the creatures and then knowing when to block and then counter and start attacking them so you're not burning too much stamina. Also in this game, along with the skills and the melee combat, there are traps, which you can see here what I'm using in the video. And these traps are really cool because you can put different things in them. They can slow the enemy, they can cause bleed, they can cause different elemental damages, etc., etc. So that is basically how the combat works. It's pretty stale in the beginning, but as you unlock different skills and build them all together, you can actually have a really fun build. And there are many, many different builds to do in this game. You can do heavy armor tanky builds with two-handers. You can do kind of like what I do, bow and some daggers and some swords. There's all sorts of different options from a combat standpoint. So now let's talk about how big is the game and what is there to do in the game. So the game map is broken into basically 4 areas. You have your main area that you start in, and then from there you travel to a swampy area called the Hollow Marsh. Then you travel to another area called the Emerkar Forest, I believe, and then past both of those zones, there's a 4th area, and that is called the desert, and I don't even want to try and say what the name of the desert is. There's basically 4 biomes, and each biome has their own weather. So, for instance, this first biome I'm in can actually have snow in it, but obviously the desert can't, so you have to prepare for each of the biomes. Each map area is not that big. It feels pretty big solely because there is no fast travel in this game. You cannot fast travel, and your only means of travel is to sprint everywhere. And so depending on how your build is and what armor you have on, you may not be able to sprint for long periods of time, and you may burn through your stamina that even sprinting's a pain. So although the maps look pretty big, there's really not a lot on them. It's just there's a lot of travel time because there is not a way to fast travel between the game. The quickest way to fast travel is to die somewhere and then to hope that it spawns you back in the city. So there you go. Now, when you look at the map, it's broken up with a lot of different points that you want to explore. As I said, the game is more about exploring and unlocking skills and unlocking crafting recipes and that kind of thing more than it is following a bunch of side quests. There are side quests in the game, like gather something, gather this, bring me this, and then there's a main story quest line that ends up branching off into 3 different factions, and you choose which faction you're going to join, and based on your choice, it kind of changes the game itself, and those factions also help you to unlock different skills. But other than that, the most fun of the game is the exploration and trying out new stuff and finding new things. Now, I haven't mentioned it yet, but this game is very dependent on crafting. Crafting is a huge part of this game, which also I believe makes it more of a survival game. Almost everything in this game, from weapons and armor, can pretty much be crafted by finding stuff in the game, or you can buy stuff from different trainers. And what's cool about this game is if you don't cheat and go look out on the internet and you just want to experience the game, there's all these recipes that you have to buy in order to learn the different alchemy, cooking, and crafting recipes. So a lot of the fun of this game is to explore and to find these recipes and to go and get the stuff to make these items to make you stronger in the game. Now, along that same line of getting recipes and exploring the game, there is also a huge emphasis on this game is about your backpack. The game is about the weight of your backpack. So the better your backpack, the better quality of life you're going to have in this game, because you're constantly picking stuff up and it weighs a ton, and the last thing you want to be is overweight. So managing your backpack is very important in this game. Now, I didn't mention in the combat, but one of the things that's really fun about this game is if you are going to fight something in this game, depending on what size and what kind of backpack you have on, you cannot dodge roll worth a damn. You dodge roll super slow. So one of the mechanics of this game is to actually drop your backpack so that you have less weight in order to fight. What makes this interesting is you have pockets on your actual body that also has a weight limit. So you have to know what you want to keep in your pockets and what you want to keep in your backpack so that when you drop your backpack, say you're taking damage, you have a potion in, say, your pocket so you can drink it and heal yourself. So there's a lot of idiosyncrasies to the game that make it actually pretty interesting. I have heard people saying that developers wanted to make this game feel very realistic, and that's why there's no fast travel and you have to drop your pack and encumbrance and all that. And a part of it makes the game really fun, and there's also a part of it that says, okay, just a little quality of life would make this game fantastic. So that's kind of how the gameplay works from the storylines and all that. Now I want to kind of get into a little bit about just how the game works. So basically, you can play this game solo player, co-op, or you can play it split screen. Now, when you play it solo player, you play it on your own PC or your own console, you can play this game split screen on a PC if you have a controller attached, and one person can play using a controller and the other person can play using a mouse and keyboard. And then you can also do an online co-op play where basically you are entering somebody else's game. So it functions a lot like Dark Souls, in where you are basically invading someone else's game. You come over to their game with all of your stuff on, and you can pick up everything within their game. So literally, you could steal somebody's backpack in their game, and then you can just bail and leave and never come back. So a lot of people complained about that. If you're playing co-op, inviting some random stranger into your game might not be the best idea, because literally they can enter your game, take whatever they want, and then leave. They can enter your house. They can enter your storage, everything. So just keep that in mind, that the co-op of this game is like a Dark Souls. Someone just basically jumps in your game. They have the ability to loot the stuff in your game, but they can't affect like the quests. The quests in the game are yours. Like if they pick up a quest in their game and they enter your game, that quest doesn't exist. It's 100% your game. So it's kind of an interesting co-op that you're just basically jumping in and out of somebody's game. And there's pros and cons to it. Like one of the pros to it is, say I basically am almost dead and we're out in the middle of nowhere and we're nowhere near town. I can leave the game that I'm playing with my friend and then rest in my bed and then just pop right back in his game and continue fighting. So there are some pros and cons to it. There's also ways to get characters across the map. You know, if my solo character is in Levant, which is in the desert, and my buddy's solo character is in, the starting area, then he can literally join my game and then be in the desert and get what he wants in the desert versus having to run all the way there. So that is how the co-op works in this game. Both, you can do the one with the with the controller and the PC, keyboard and mouse. You can play just solo, or you can have a co-op where someone online jumps into your game. So that's pretty much everything there is to know about the game. I hope I covered everything. If there's something I missed, please leave them in the comments below. Now I just want to kind of give you my opinion of this game. So after putting in a very long time in this game, I will tell you that there is a lot of fun to the game and there's a lot of frustration to the game. The fun of the game, 100%, is the exploration and finding stuff and checking out new creatures and running into new stuff. Like going to all the different points of interest on the map and exploring is what makes this game super, super fun. On top of that, as you get skills and you start being able to use new abilities and you can build your character, that's super fun as well. Now, I really enjoy survival games and having to deal with crafting and doing all that. The fact that you can find recipes and craft different things in the game, as well as, you know, make different buffs and debuffs, there's a lot of fun in that. When I get into the game being not so great, there's a couple things about it that turn you off. There are still bugs in this game. My buddy and I actually had to quit my storyline because we actually bugged it and there was no way to fix it. So this game is not a AAA game, and sometimes you run into bugs in this game. The second thing that was kind of frustrating was the combat. In the combat, when you have skills, it's very hard to land those skills, and a lot of it has to do with the animation locking and then just the timing of the skills versus the animations. If you are not super close to the creature or you're not right on it and you try and do a skill, you whiff the skill, and then on top of that, your skill goes on cooldown. So understanding, like, using the targeting in this game and attacking, it's actually can be very frustrating. And about the targeting, tab target does not work in this game. When you lock on something, you have to hit the lock, the tab lock on. It's on that creature, and then you hit it again. It unlocks that creature, and then you hit it again, and it now locks onto a different creature. There's no way to cycle through creatures when you have them locked, which can be very frustrating. On top of a couple of the bugs, and on top of the combat being somewhat annoying at times, the game itself is a lot of fun experience. I will tell you that once you get to the end game and you have all the skills you want and all the gear you want, you become extremely powerful and the game is not as fun. So for all of you who want to watch a video on how to get all the skills and how to get the best gear, I wouldn't suggest doing it because it kind of takes away the fun of the game. All in all, the co-op experience was a lot of fun. The game itself, the exploration, we countless times were like, oh my God, what is that? Or, you know, what is that creature? And, you know, it was just a really fun experience in exploration. And you really don't want to look and cheat because it's really going to take a lot of the fun out of the game. The last thing that I will tell you was frustrating about the game was dealing with some of the temperature. Like, winter in this game just sucks. If it's winter in your game, dealing with not getting cold is super annoying unless you actually have to run around with a cold resistant set. So you can't really build the armor you want because you can't possibly function unless you have a cold armor set without stopping every 10 minutes to light a fire and all of that good stuff. So at the end of the day, I will say that my buddy and I would probably give this game a 9 out of 10. The reason it's not a 10 out of 10 has to do with some of those quirks with the bugs and some of the annoyances with the combat. But for a small game that's not AAA, that, yes, is a little janky, the fun that I had in this game for the price I paid was just 100% worth it. And you can replay this game because there's 3 different storylines and you can do different builds, and it just really is a fun experience. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this video helps to make you decide if this is a game you should buy in 2020, and hopefully you guys buy it and get through the main quest to get ready for the DLC that I know me and my buddy are both going to play. This is Van from the Vaniverse Gaming Channel. I appreciate you guys watching. Cheers and peace out.